So the holidays are coming up, and let's be honest, you've been meaning to train your dog all year. But life happened. Maybe your car decided it needed a new gearbox, or perhaps you weren't planning on forking out for 2 root canals. Whatever the reason, training the dog got pushed down the list, and now you're in full-on panic mode because your dog's about to behave like an absolute shithead when all your family come to visit you. But don't worry, if you follow the principles in this video, you'll have grandma saying, wow, he's so well behaved. And no, we're not going to drug your dog. Today, I'm going to give you a few actionable tips that you can start using immediately to make having guests over an absolute breeze. That way you can sit back, relax, and actually enjoy the festive season. Or if you're watching this in January, don't worry, this advice actually works all year round. We'll cover how to handle dogs that won't settle when guests are over, dogs that jump up, a game-changing place command hack, and most importantly, single best piece of advice you'll ever receive about having guests coming over at Christmas time. Let's dive in. So, jumping up. Here's a question I get asked every single day, 365 days a year.
How do I get my dog to stop jumping up at people?
And while my method might be a bit controversial to some, I'm yet to see a method as effective. If you've tried turning your back, ignoring the dog completely, or waiting for them to sit so you can hand them a treat, and it's all been to no avail, then this video is for you. What I'm about to share could very well be the game changer you've been looking for. So how do we deal with jumping up? We can, of course, ignore the dog. We can turn our back on the dog. We can offer the dog some food. What I see the problem is with each of those methods is that when real life happens and people get jumped up at, it's because of they're inviting the dog to jump up at them. So what do I mean by that? We practice 300, 400, 500 times of our dog not jumping up on our stooge, our helper, our person that's giving us a hand on how to teach our dog not to jump up on them, and they're turning around or they're ignoring them, or perhaps we're working really hard on that at home. But then real life happens and little old lady bends over, she's invitational, and what happens is our dog sees that as a green light. Our dog goes, hey, they're not following the rules, therefore they must be saying to me, I can jump up. So our dog is seeing being ignored and our back turning as, hey, you're not allowed to jump up. But then when someone inevitably doesn't follow those rules, our dog is going to go, oh, hey, different game, different picture, and then they're going to go back to jumping up. So I can imagine if you're watching this, you've probably tried some sort of method where we ignore the dog, we turn our back on the dog. It doesn't work, and all that happens is our dog just learns to intermittently jump up on people, creating probably a stronger behavior. So what we need to do is have a leash on the dog. I have a regular 6-foot sleep leash on Lenny now. Have a couple of helpers, and the role of the helper is to actually get the dog to try and jump up at them. So the dog sees the picture of a helper, stranger, whatever it may be, inviting them to jump up, and it's our job to deal with it appropriately, not our job to manage everything, to make it super easy for the dog, because of when real life happens, our dog just goes, oh, hey, look, I'm allowed to jump up. So there's a few different ways to do this. We're going to do a really simplified version. I'm going to bring Chloe over first, then I'm going to use Nathan. Chloe's job is to try and get Lenny to jump up at her. I am not going to say anything. There's no pre-warning. There's no sit. There's no command, because I want Lenny to think that he can interact with this person freely, but just not break the single rule of taking all 4 paws off the floor. So we want all 4 paws on the floor. Right, Chloe, come over. Try and get Lenny to jump up. I'm going to give a correction. I'm not going to say anything with my correction. I'm going to just give the leash a bit of a pop with a, good boy, Lenny, with a tea towel whipping effect. Good. And then Chloe can go to him. So when then Lenny gives us that moment where he goes, oh, I get this now, I'm breaking the rules, we can have our person like come down and then they can have the fuss. Good lad. I think he's some food as well. And we try again. And then Chloe can go to him again. Cool. And one more time. And I'm going to pay him, double pay him, so with some food as well. Not totally necessary. Oh, he was...
Come on then. Good lad.
There you go. There you go. Pointless here, Chloe turning her back and ignoring and all the rest of it, because of that's not real life. That's not what 99.9% of people are going to do. 99.9% of people are going to be invitational, jump up, and then complain when the dog then does jump up. So if we want to prepare our dog for that situation, this is what we need to do. Go one more time, Chloe. And straight away he gets it. There you go. Same again, but with Nathan, we need to generalize this behavior. You probably want to do this between 6 and 10 people. Lenny might get it straight away, or he might go, hey, new person, let's see if the old rules work, okay? So go.
Lenny, come on, what's this?
Yeah, keep inviting him.
Lenny, come on, what's this? Lenny. Lenny, come on.
Good. Cool. And we want this person doing this and all the rest of it and trying to your hardest. And again, keep going. Good. And now you can fuss him. Good, perfect. Yes. Good boy. And then I can give a positive marker. You should have one of them by now if you've watched any of our other videos to teach him that, hey, the party was always with me anyway. And go again.
Lenny, come on. Lenny, what's this? Come on.
Good lad. Yes. Nice. And we'll try once more with Meg. Come on, May.
Lenny, come here. Come here. Good boy. Good boy.
Yes. And again.
Lenny, come here.
Yes. Lad. And then last one.
Come here.
Good boy.
Good boy.
And again, one more.
Lenny, come here. Good boy.
Good. So we're intentionally making it quite hard for the dog. Lenny has a strong history of jumping up. We don't want a disparity between the dog, someone turning their back, someone ignoring him then going, oh, I can't jump up. So then when someone does come along and completely ignore him or they're less invitational, well, he's just dealt with a much harder situation and picture, so he's probably not going to jump up. We want to do that with every person that comes in. It's not realistic just to try and have everyone ignore the dog. People don't do that, especially festive times. So there you go. That's a jumping up tutorial. Slip leash on the dog. How are we correcting the dog? The same way you might whip someone with a tea towel. Not super hard. It's not intended to hurt the dog. Just kind of snap them out of it so they think, oh shit, what the hell's just gone on? Okay, so there's your jumping up tutorial. 5 to 10 people and your dog won't jump up anymore. All right, so we're going to cheat a bit here. This isn't exactly sustainable advice, but if you've got guests arriving imminently, be it for Christmas, bar mitzvah, or maybe even Diwali, I've got a hack for you. If your dog has the habit of being a bit of a shithead, you're going to want to follow this exercise routine before your guests come round. The goal here is simple. Put a serious dent in your dog's energy levels before your guests arrive. Timing is key. You don't want to knack them out only for them to get a recharge and then use grandma's solar plexus as a trampoline. So get everything ready for your guests first to minimize the gap between exercise and their arrival. Here's what you're going to do. You start with a solid play session, get the main beans out here, maybe a game of fetch or a bit of tug or even flirt pole if you've got one, and then move on to a long walk, literally as long as your schedule and legs can manage. Finally, for that extra sprinkle of exhaustion, scatter feed your dog's breakfast in the garden. Or, dare I say it, a snuffle mat for that extra bit of brain work. And once that's done, pop your dog in their crate, grab a quick shower, throw on your questionable Christmas jumper, and prepare to argue with the family over a game of pissed up charades. All while your dog melts into the sofa like the good little angel you know they're capable of being. Right, next up, the place command. Now, I've made plenty of videos on how to actually train the place command, but in the following clip, I've thrown in a couple of bonus tips to make sure your dog stays glued to their bed like a rock. No more zoomies around the Christmas tree, or resource guarding a mince pie, or making off with the glazed ham. I'm going to give you a couple of tips on place training. So, you should know how to teach your dog place by now. Covered it in a bunch of different videos, so I'm not going to cover it, but I'm going to give you some advice on how to make your place training stronger. But first and foremost, when you practice place, make sure you practice distractions while you're at least pretending not to be concentrating on the dog. So what I see too often is we put our dog in place and then we do this. Stay, stay, stay. And then when something else captures our attention and we move away from the dog, we then change the picture, we change the scenario, we change the situation, and the dog goes, oh, hey, mum or dad is not concentrating on me anymore, so I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go see what those mince pies over there are saying. So it's super important that when we're practicing our repetitions, that we're not doing it in a super fabricated, super setup. So although I'm going to work on my place training with Lenny, I'm also going to keep him in the corner of my eye, and then intermittently, occasionally come back and deliver food for him staying there. Right, so then I might go over here, I'm going to open the fridge, I'm going to close the fridge. There's no point me doing really artificial setups where I'm like this and I've got my treat pouch on and all the rest of it. Appreciate it, I'm in my dog training gear now, but there's no point staring at him, waiting, good, and then doing that. We have to start then thinking about what everyday jobs and tasks can we do that might, like, open the side door, that might set our dog off, right? So we need to incorporate this, especially if we got family coming over for the holidays and stuff, into our training, making sure it's not too artificial, right? And not always just sat facing the dog, kind of hand out in front, obedience class style, all right? Now, if Lenny gets up, I'm coming in, I'm saying, hey, don't do that. The same correction as we did for jumping up, and then I'm gonna pop the leash back down. So this brings me on to my second point. If Lenny were to get up now and do the zoomies around the island and go say hello to Chloe and Nathan over here, he's gonna get some reinforcement out of that, right? And what I don't wanna do is start teaching him that when you get off the bed, one, like, really great things might happen, and two, you've got something then to weigh up against my potential correction to put you back on the bed. And again, when we're using corrections, there's nothing really heavy. We're just saying, hey, don't do that, pick something else, do that instead. Let's say he does get up, he does jump over these guys, he does jump up on the counter, he does get some cheese, he does get some ham, and then I say, hey, don't do that, and I put him back and I give him a little leash pop and I put him back on the bed, and that the value of the leash pop is a -4, but he's just gone ahead and got like an 8 or a 9 because he had some fun and all the rest of it. What's going to happen then is he's going to make a cost-benefit analysis and probably learn to ride through my corrections and learn that as soon as he thinks he can get away with it, he's going to hop off the place bed and go tail ass around the house trying to find reinforcement elsewhere. So to mitigate any reinforcement that Lenny might have by getting up and chasing the sausage dogs or getting up and stealing that mince pie across the side, I'm going to use a second leash tied to something heavier than Lenny, right? Which is this chair, I think, for the most part in this instance, and that's going to go on his other collar. So I've got a slip leash that kind of I'm going to do the obedience with, and then I've got a second leash to make sure, down, to make sure if Lenny gets off the bed, it is futile. Lenny isn't going to go and find any fun by breaking the place command. So I don't have to make this cost benefit analysis. He's going to get up, he's going to hit the end, he's going to, hey, down. He's going to get up, he's going to hit the end, figure, okay, that wasn't worth my while, nothing happened. Then I come back, I may offer a little bit of a correction and then put him down, and he's like, oh, it wasn't worthwhile me getting up. Whereas if we do it with our dog, they get up, we go to get the leash, they start doing zoomies around the house and we're chasing them around, which is reinforcing, of course, then it's probably worthwhile them getting up again. So I have one leash on to kind of give my correction should I need to, and then guide the dog back into the position. And then I have the other leash is just to make sure the dog finds nothing valuable if they do break the place command. I use this all the way from puppies, all the way to sport dogs and everything else, just a back tie point to make sure if I have to offer a correction, 4 down, 4 place is not weighed up against anything because of the dog couldn't reach anything, because we've essentially blocked it and managed it, okay? So that is my place tip number 2. And finally, my last piece of advice is we're gonna start working through stimuli that would typically trigger our dog. And then when he doesn't respond, we go back, deliver room service. So a couple of different ways we can do this, but I'll give you an easy example in a moment. I'm gonna go knock that door. If Lenny stays where he is, I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing, come back to him, take some food in a fist, bring it right to his face, and then open it as I make contact with his nose. that means he's not in any state of anticipation to get off the bed to receive reward, and reinforcement is found in staying on the bed. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to knock the door. Lenny's going to stay exactly where he was because he's such a good boy. I'm then going to come back to Lenny, take my food, and deliver it to him in place. If it's not super tidy at this stage, I don't really care. I'm not training for sport. I'm just training him to stay on his bed. And there's another distraction there in the form of a sausage dog. And so I want to start working around all the things that might trigger Lenny at Christmas time that he might find difficult, fabricating those distractions, wherever it needs to be, whatever triggers my dog. Some dogs it's opening the fridge, some dogs it's the vacuum, whatever that may be, I put it in place. I stop doing what I'm doing, I go back to my dog, I pay for staying there. If they get off, they're gonna then potentially correct themselves, and then I'll correct them, put them back, and I can just deliver on place. And we wanna just spend a couple of days, 15 minutes, 20 minutes per time, solidifying this before maybe our guests are coming over Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, wherever it needs to be. Okay, so there's my 3 place hacks. Hopefully they help. Start implementing them today and you'll see a massive difference. What do the following noises mean for your dog? If any of these sounds send your dog into a frenzy, here's a simple fix. Find an artificial source of the sound, play it on your phone or through a Bluetooth speaker, and train your dog. Ideally, you'll want to cue them to do something constructive right after they hear the noise, like go into their place bed or perhaps even their crate. Most doorbells use generic sounds you can easily find online. Or if yours is overly unique, then just record it on your phone and play it back over a speaker. With enough repetitions, you'll see a much calmer, less dramatic response from your dog. I'd recommend practicing this as often as you possibly can leading up to the big occasion. Breakfast and tea time are perfect opportunities to squeeze in some training. Oh, and before you go, there's one thing I really need you to understand. We all love a drink over Christmas, but remember, alcohol changes everything. You might act different, you might speak different, you even smell different to your dog. Someone they're usually very familiar with might suddenly seem like a completely different person after a few Baileys. And if that someone leans down for a smooch under the mistletoe on the head of your dog, or perhaps gets a bit too close, we're asking for trouble. So please respect your dog's space this holiday season. Advocate for them if someone's getting a bit too familiar, or if things are feeling a bit overwhelming for your dog, pop them in another room for some downtime. If you found this video helpful, you'll probably enjoy this one right here.